I gave my 50-year-old father a $20,000 check for his birthday. He tore it up and said, "You can't buy my respect." My mother laughed and sneered. "We don't need money from a keyboard clown." So I stopped paying their bills. Now I wake up to dozens of missed calls. All right, Reddit, I need some brutal honesty on this one. Never thought I'd be airing out my family drama here, but I just need to know, was I really the fool for walking away? I'm Ethan, 22, and I make my money online, e-commerce, freelancing, a few other things. Basically, I sit behind a laptop all day, and somehow, that's a crime in my family. I grew up poor. Not, we can't afford a Disney trip poor, but lights getting shut off. Mom crying in the kitchen because we don't have rent poor. My dad worked in a factory working tirelessly every day, and I worshipped him for it. In my eyes, he was the hardest working, most honorable man on the planet. And he made sure I knew one thing. A real man doesn't measure himself in money, Ethan. He measures himself in what he can endure. I believed that. Until I started making more money in a month than he made in a year. And suddenly, everything changed. It's not real money, Ethan. It started small. I made my first few thousand online, got excited, told my dad. Thought he'd be proud. He just grunted. Sounds like a scam. Okay, whatever. But then I started making real money. More than enough to move out, but I stayed because my family was struggling. I covered groceries, helped with bills, paid off Dad's truck repair when it broke down. I didn't do it for praise. I did it because that's what you do for family, right? Except the more I helped, the more my dad resented me for it. You ever gonna get a real job? Must be nice, doing nothing all day. Back in my day, men worked with their hands, not some keyboard. It was like he needed to believe I was lazy, that my success wasn't real. Then one night at dinner, he flat out said it. It's not real money, Ethan. Not like what a man earns with his hands. And my younger brother, Liam, snorted. Yeah, bro, you basically just sit around all day. Not that hard. I looked at Mom, waiting for her to put a stop to it. She just gave me that tight, uncomfortable smile and looked away. I should have left right then. The birthday gift that broke me. Dad turned 50 last year. Big family barbecue, all his friends, beer flowing. I thought, this is it. This is my chance. I wrote him a $20,000 check. Not because he asked. Not because he needed it. But because I wanted to honor him. Because no matter how much he pissed me off, he was still my dad, and I wanted him to be proud of me. I handed him the envelope in front of everyone. Dad, this is for you. He opened it, stared at the number, and then he laughed. Laughed. Right in my face. Are you kidding me? He muttered, shaking his head. You think this buys my respect? My stomach dropped. I forced a laugh. What? No, Dad, it's not about that. He shoved the envelope back at me. Keep your money, Ethan. Respect isn't bought with a check. The whole backyard went silent. I felt my face heat up. I wanted to disappear. Liam smirked. Bro really thought he could just Venmo his way into being the favorite. Laughter. Everyone laughed. Then Liam pulled out his gift, a cheap $20 pocket knife from a gas station. And my father lit up like it was the greatest thing he'd ever received. Now this is thoughtful, he said, flipping the blade open. A real man's gift. I sat there, $20,000 check still in my hand, feeling like the biggest fool on the planet. That night, I made a decision. I stopped sending money, not out of anger, not to be petty, but because I finally understood I wasn't their son. I was their walking ATM. All right, Reddit, I need a reality check. 2 months ago, I stopped being my family's personal ATM. My dad, who I once thought was my hero, made it painfully clear that no matter how much I helped, I'd never be enough. So, I walked away. At first, they thought I was bluffing. Then the bills piled up. The power got shut off. My younger brother bailed the second things got tough. And suddenly, I wasn't the son who helped. I was the villain. And this phone call? Oh, Reddit. This was the moment everything exploded. Pick up the phone, Ethan. I was at home, enjoying a peaceful evening, when my phone started buzzing like crazy. Dad, 3 missed calls. Mom, 2 missed calls. Then a text from Liam, my younger brother. Answer your phone. Dad is furious. I sighed and put my phone down. Not my problem. A minute later, another call. Fine. I answered. Me. Hello. Dad. So that's it? You're just ignoring your family now. I sighed. Here we go. Me. I'm not ignoring anyone. I'm just not paying for everything anymore. Dad. And because of that, we have no electricity, Ethan. No internet. Do you even care what you've done? I leaned back in my chair. What I've done? Dad, I didn't turn off the power. The company did, because the bill wasn't paid. Mom in the background. And next week, they'll shut off the water. Are you happy now? I rubbed my temple. You know you can call the utility company and work out a payment plan, right? Dad's voice grew sharp. I shouldn't have to. You were handling it just fine, and then you decide to throw a tantrum like a child and walk away, just because your feelings got hurt. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Right? I'm the child, but you're the one calling me because you don't know how to pay a bill. Silence. Then Mom jumped in. Mom, your father is going to have to take night shifts again just to cover the basics. Is that what you wanted? To see him break his back working overnight? I took a deep breath. Well, he always said real men work with their hands, right? Since I'm just some clown behind a computer, I guess now he gets to be the real man again. Dad, don't you dare talk to me like that. Me, why not? You talk to me like this all the time. Or did you forget how you laughed in my face when I gave you $20,000 for your birthday? Silence. Then, Dad, that's what this is really about, isn't it? You're still pouting about that. I clenched my jaw. No, Dad. I'm realizing things. I'm realizing that I spent years paying for everything while you mocked me for it. And the second I stopped, you suddenly remembered how to dial my number. Dad, you wouldn't understand, Ethan. You've never had to break your back for a paycheck. You've never had to work until your hands bled just to feed your family. I felt something inside me snap. Me. And whose fault is that? I found another way. I figured out how to make money without destroying my body. And instead of being proud of me, you sat there and insulted me for it. Silence. Then, finally, the mask slipped. Dad, you made more money in 2 years than I did in my whole life. Ethan, do you know how that feels? Watching your own son out-earn you like it's nothing. Oh. There it was. It wasn't about respect. It wasn't about pride. It was jealousy. I took a deep breath. And I smiled. Me? I hope you figure it out. And then I hung up. The aftermath. For the next 2 weeks, I got guilt-tripped from every angle. Mom sent texts daily. You're tearing this family apart. How can you watch us struggle and not help? We raised you, Ethan. Don't we deserve something in return? Liam, who had no problem laughing at me months ago, suddenly cared. Dude. Just help them out so they stop calling me. You know you'll cave eventually. Might as well get it over with. It's just money, man. Why are you making this a big deal? And Dad? Dad didn't call again. Because for the first time in his life, he had nothing left to say. All right, Reddit. This is it. The moment everything truly fell apart. I thought cutting them off would be the end of it. That after a few weeks of complaining, they'd figure things out and move on. I was so wrong. Because my family wasn't just angry that I stopped helping. They felt entitled to my money. And when entitlement meets desperation, it gets ugly. The breaking point. It had been about a month since the last phone call. Silence. No texts. No guilt trips. Nothing. And honestly, I was starting to feel good. For the first time in years, I wasn't constantly stressed about who needed what bill had to be covered, or whether I'd get another passive-aggressive comment about how my work wasn't real. Then, one night, I came home to find someone waiting for me outside my apartment. It was Dad, sitting on the steps, arms crossed, looking like he'd been there for hours. The second he saw me, he stood up. Dad, we need to talk. I sighed, unlocking my door. There's nothing left to say, Dad. He pushed past me and walked inside like he still had any authority over me. Dad, sit down. I laughed. You're in my house. You don't get to bark orders at me. He turned, face red with frustration. You need to stop acting like a spoiled child and take responsibility. That made me stop. I slowly turned to face him. Responsibility? Dad? Yes, Ethan. You don't just abandon your family because you feel like it. We are on the verge of losing everything, and you're sitting here pretending like it's not your problem. I folded my arms. Because it's not my problem, Dad. It never should have been. I helped because I wanted to, not because I had to. And the second I stopped, you all turned on me. His jaw clenched. You're still holding on to that, huh? I scoffed. Holding on to what? The part where you mocked me for giving you $20,000? Or the part where you told me I wasn't a real man because I don't break my back at a factory? He ran a hand through his hair, looking exhausted. Look, I was frustrated, all right? I cut him off. No, Dad. You weren't frustrated. You were jealous. He flinched. Me. You couldn't stand that I made more money in 2 years than you did in your whole life. You hated that I didn't have to suffer the way you did. You didn't respect me because you didn't want to. Because if you admitted I was successful, You'd have to admit that maybe you wasted your life struggling for nothing. His eyes burned with anger. That's not true. I stepped closer. Isn't it? Silence. I sighed, rubbing my temples. Why are you here, Dad? He exhaled sharply. We can't pay the mortgage this month. The bank is threatening to take the house. I stared at him. And his hands curled into fists. And you need to step up and help your family. I let out a breathless laugh. Unbelievable. Dad. Ethan, this house will be yours and Liam's one day. You're just protecting your own future. I shook my head. You don't get it, do you? I don't want the house. I don't want anything from you anymore. His face twisted with frustration. So that's it. You're just going to let us lose everything. I met his gaze. You let me go the second I stopped paying. Why should I save you now? He inhaled sharply, looking like he wanted to yell, but then he slumped. For the first time, my father actually looked small. Dad, I worked my whole life, Ethan, and I have nothing to show for it. I swallowed. That's not my fault. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I guess it's not. I thought, maybe, just maybe, that would be it. That he'd finally leave and accept reality. But no. He straightened up, hardened his expression, and spat out the words that killed any last ounce of sympathy I had for him. Dad, you'll regret this. One day, you'll need this family, and we won't be there. I smiled. Like how you weren't there for me when I needed your respect. He didn't answer. He just turned and walked out the door. And I didn't stop him. The fallout. The next morning, my mother called. Mom. Ethan, what did you say to your father? He came home furious. Me. He asked for money. I said no. Silence. Then, Mom, you can't do this to us. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Mom, I'm not doing anything. I just stopped cleaning up after you. Her voice wavered. But what are we supposed to do? I sighed. Figure it out. Like every other adult. Mom, your father might have to work nights again. I shrugged. He always said real men work with their hands. Now he gets to prove it. She gasped. How can you be so heartless? I leaned back. I learned from the best. Click. A few days after my mom's call about the house, I got an unexpected call from Liam. At first, I considered ignoring it. I hadn't heard from him in months. Not since he moved out and distanced himself from the mess our parents had created. But something told me to pick up. Me, hello. Liam, hey. I waited. No insults. No passive-aggressive remarks. Just hesitation. Me. What do you want, Liam? Liam. Look, I know we haven't talked. And I know things are bad with Mom and Dad. But I need to tell you something before you make up your mind about them. I frowned. Make up my mind about what? He sighed. They're losing the house, Ethan. It's real this time. The bank is taking it. I leaned back, gripping my phone a little tighter. I already knew this was coming, but hearing Liam say it out loud made it feel more final. Me, and Liam, and I think we should try to save it. I let out a bitter laugh. We? Liam, yeah. Look, I don't have much, but I can put in $2,000. That's all I have. But if we both help, maybe we can stop them from losing everything. I was silent. Liam wasn't like Mom and Dad. He never expected me to fund his life. He never asked me for money. And now, for the first time, he was offering his own. Me. Why do you care? You don't even live there anymore. He hesitated. Because it's still home, Ethan. I didn't respond. Liam, I know Mom and Dad have been awful to you. I know they don't deserve your help. But this isn't about them. It's about everything we grew up with. That house is the only place that ever felt like something ours. My chest tightened. Liam, do you remember how we used to play hide and seek in the attic? Mom would yell at us because we'd always knock things over. I smiled despite myself. Yeah, Liam. And the treehouse Dad built in the backyard? It was lopsided and barely holding together, but we thought it was the coolest thing ever. I closed my eyes. I could still picture it. The peeling white paint, the creaky wooden stairs, the way the whole place smelled like old books and Mom's vanilla candles. I had spent years resenting that house because of everything that happened inside it. But Liam was right. Before things got bad, before the manipulation and the guilt trips and the resentment, it was home. I sighed. Liam, what if we give them the money and they mess it up again? He hesitated. Then at least we'll know we tried. I didn't say anything. Because for the first time, I wasn't just thinking about my anger. I was thinking about the version of me that once loved that house. And that's how, against my better judgment, I made the decision to help. I just didn't know yet how badly it would backfire. All right, Reddit. I thought I was done. I thought I had walked away for good. But somehow, they pull me back in. For the first time ever, my parents admitted they needed me. And against my better judgment, I gave them a chance. On my terms. One last chance, a legal agreement. A few months after I cut off my family, I got a text from my mom. "Ethan, please. We need help. It's about the house." I hesitated. I knew what this was about. I should have ignored it. But I didn't. I called. "Mom, Ethan, thank goodness. Listen, I got straight to the point. What's wrong with the house?" She hesitated before finally saying, "Mom, the bank is going to take it." I exhaled. "How much do you owe?" "Mom, they said we need at least $50,000 to stop the foreclosure process. If we don't pay by the end of the month, it's gone." Silence. Then she said what I had been expecting. "Mom, Ethan, you could help us. Just this once." I let out a short laugh. "Me? You mean like all the other times?" "Mom, this is different. We're about to lose our home." I sighed, rubbing my temple. "Fine. I'll help. But on my terms. The deal, in writing." We met at a lawyer's office. Not at their house. Not over dinner. This time, it was going to be official. Dad sat across from me, arms crossed, jaw clenched. He hated this. Mom looked nervous. Liam didn't even bother to show up. The lawyer placed the contract on the table and slid it toward them. "Me. I'm loaning you $50,000. This is not a gift. This is a legally binding loan. You will make scheduled payments. If you fail to pay, I will take legal action to recover my money." Mom's hands shook as she picked up the papers. "Ethan, is this really necessary?" I looked her straight in the eye. "Yes." Dad muttered under his breath. "Family doesn't do this to each other." I raised an eyebrow. "Funny, because family doesn't do what you did to me either." Silence. The lawyer cleared his throat. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter, if you agree to these terms, sign at the bottom." Mom sighed, picked up the pen, and signed. Dad hesitated. I could see the battle between his pride and his desperation. But in the end, he signed too. And just like that, the deal was sealed. I transferred the money. And for a brief moment, I thought, maybe, just maybe, this would be the turning point. I was so wrong. Broken promises. 1 month passed. I waited for the first payment. Nothing. 2 months. Still nothing. On the 3rd month, I called my mom. "Me, where's the money?" She hesitated. "Ethan, your father, he couldn't find work. His health isn't what it used to be. He really tried. But can't you just forgive the debt?" I took a deep breath. Then, calmly, "Me, no." She gasped. "Ethan, how can you be so unkind? He's your father." I clenched my jaw. And I was his son. But that never stopped him from making me feel like I was nothing. Silence. Then she whispered, "Are you really going to put us through this?" Me, "Yes." And I hung up, taking them to court. I didn't want to do it. But they left me no choice. I filed a lawsuit to recover my money. They had signed a contract. This wasn't a family matter anymore. This was a legal issue. The court date arrived. Mom looked devastated. Dad, he looked furious. The moment the judge started reviewing the contract, Dad lost his temper. "Dad, so this is what it's come to? Taking your own parents to court over money." The judge tapped his gavel. "Mr. Carter, please remain calm." But he wouldn't stop. "Dad, you're not the same anymore, Ethan. Ever since you got money, you've stopped caring about family." I kept my voice steady. "Me, I kept this family afloat for years. And what did I get for it? Insults. Mockery. The moment I stopped paying, you stopped treating me like a son." His face turned red. "I don't recognize you anymore." I leaned forward. "Good. Then you won't mind paying me back like I'm just another lender." Silence. The judge ruled in my favor. The house was put up for sale. They lost everything. And I got my $50,000 back. The last goodbye. A week after the house was sold, I got one final text from my father. "I hope you're happy. You sold out your own family for money." I stared at it for a long moment. Then I deleted it. And blocked his number. Final thoughts. I am no longer their son. I used to believe family meant sacrifice. That no matter how they treated me, I had to be there for them. Now, I know the truth. Family isn't about blood. It's about respect. And when they lost respect for me, they lost me. So yeah, Reddit. I took my parents to court. And I don't regret it. Final update. Answering your questions. Wow. I didn't expect my story to blow up like this. I've read through a lot of your comments. Some supportive, some not so much. So, I figured I'd post a final update to answer the biggest questions and clear a few things up. Let's get into it. Why didn't you just let it go? It's just money. This was by far the most common response. Here's the thing, it was never just about the money. If my parents had come to me, genuinely apologized, and said, "We messed up. We treated you unfairly. We took you for granted. We're sorry," then maybe, just maybe, I would have considered working something out. But that's not what happened. Instead, they ignored the agreement, expected me to forget the debt, and when I didn't, my dad screamed at me in court about how I wasn't his son anymore. That wasn't a father asking for help. That was a man who thought he could manipulate me the way he always had. I stood up for myself. And honestly, it felt good. Would you have still taken them to court if your dad had actually tried to work? Yes. Because trying isn't the same as taking responsibility. Even if he had gotten a low-paying job, even if they had sent me just $50 a month, it would have meant something. It would have shown that they understood this wasn't a gift, that they were making an effort. But they didn't. Instead, my mom called me 3 months later with zero intention of ever paying me back and expected me to just let it go. That's not trying. That's hoping I'd fold. Why did you even loan them money if you knew this would happen? Honestly, I wanted to prove something to myself. I needed to know, if I gave them a real, legal chance, would they finally treat me with the respect they claimed money couldn't buy? Would they take accountability for once? Would they actually try? And the answer was exactly what I expected. But you sued your own parents. How do you sleep at night? Pretty well, actually. For years, I was the only one sacrificing. The only one helping. The only one who ever stepped up. The second I stopped, they turned on me. Completely. So no, I don't feel guilty. I feel free. Any regrets? Not a single one. In fact, if there's one thing I do regret, it's not cutting them off sooner. For years, I let them guilt-trip me into thinking I owed them my success. That because they raised me, I was forever obligated to take care of them, no matter how they treated me. But I see it clearly now. I didn't abandon them. They abandoned me the moment I stopped paying. Final thoughts. I'm moving forward. I've put my family behind me, and I'm focusing on my future. For those of you who supported me, thank you. I didn't expect this to resonate with so many people, but I'm glad to know I'm not alone. For those who think I was too harsh, I get it. But I did what I had to do. And for anyone out there who feels trapped by family guilt, just remember, you don't owe anyone your success. And the moment they start treating you like an ATM instead of a person, walk away.